Kitchen, baby, and you know what it means. G. Marie gon' come around. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, let's start the show.
Hey, hair care hotties, it's your girl G. Marie. Welcome to another episode of the Hair Kitchen. And today's guest is more near and dear to my heart, probably than any of my other guests. She has been with me for 36 years, and she is a licensed cosmetologist, a professional waxer, and she's now the current owner of a new spa in Maryland, Nose to Toes Beauty. Without further ado, I would like to welcome my oldest daughter, Taylor Marie Frazier McCollum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm so happy that I get an opportunity to have this chat with her because we're going to talk shop today. I've been watching some podcasts, YouTube, Instagram posts about cosmetology. And they start off talking about IG hairstylists, and then they move into cosmetology. And that's where the struggle and the burn is for me, because if you don't really understand the educational process, you might misconstrue it with what goes on in the salon or what you think should be going on in the salon. So I'm glad Taylor's here because we have a lot of chats about the business and the industry. And beauty school is all about learning your basics. It's not about what you see when a person starts practicing in the salon. So I shared a video with Taylor with the young lady who has a YouTube, and I tried to look up her credentials, because when you start talking about what cosmetology schools should be about and what they need to teach, I want to know what your credentials are. Have you ever taught a cosmetology class? Have you ever been to a beauty school and asked anyone who has to teach what and why they teach the way they do? So what did you think about the video, Taylor, where she was talking about when she first, well, I'm going to back up. When she first started talking and she was talking about the IG stylist, what did you think about that?
I thought it was really unfortunate that clients have to experience that, especially in an online environment when it's very hard to trust or to believe what you see online. You know, the more we hear about Instagram stylists not treating their clients properly, the harder it is for people to trust stylists, whether they're licensed or not. So that's why it's unfortunate to me that the whole situation even exists. And it is, you can't regulate things as much on the internet. So a lot of people who don't have license are kind of masquerading themselves as licensed stylists. I won't name names, but there are several celebrity stylists who do not have cosmetology licenses, who have never set foot in a classroom to learn how to properly cut a blunt cut or a 90-degree cut. So they're giving you styles that they have created through learning from home teachings or watching someone else do it, which is great and fine. But as she stated in the video, which I will agree with her on this point, the consistency isn't always there. Or if the consistency is there, then they feel entitled because they feel like they were able to make something happen that wouldn't have happened without, you know, the beauty business, you know. So if the beauty business wasn't here, you wouldn't be making this money. So I feel that you should kind of have some respect for the industry and take some time to go to school, even if you did build that following and you're already a celebrated stylist. Just get the license, because now they may teach you something in school that you didn't already know. There may be something else that you can learn. If you're green, you're growing. So I always feel that even as a licensed stylist who has several years in the game, I don't have to stop going to classes. I don't have to stop taking more education. So that's where I feel like she had some good points, but there were some things where it's like, that's not a licensed stylist technique. That's something that someone who's not licensed is going to do. And it's up to the client to discern whether or not the person is licensed before they try to book that appointment.
And that's one thing that we talked about on another show, was one of the stylists who's been in the hair business a long time. And we asked each other, how many times has anyone ever asked you about your license? I've never had anyone ask me. Have you?
No.
Right. And I've been licensed since the 80s. So I've never had anybody call me, inquire, or anything and ask about a license. So my suggestion to the consumer or the layperson is, if that helps to validate the person having credentials, start by asking if they have a license, and then ask them, how long have you been doing this, to kind of help you know how much hair have they touched, how much hair have they seen, how many challenges have they faced, because some of the pictures that she shared were just over the top, just wrong with what had happened. And and what I also saw was like beginner work, which is okay because we all start there. And that's the part I want everybody to understand. I wasn't clicking and turning and pressing and curling and wrapping and curling when I started the way I am now. Practice is what helps you to formulate your techniques and build on your foundation. But you have to have the foundation before you can really, it's like you got to know the law before you can break the rules. So if you don't even know what the law is, how are you going to even break the rules? So and then when she talked about the price, and you just kind of touched on it, that was another thing, because she said beauty school or cosmetology school is like $7,000 to $20,000, and I was like, okay, and that says what? I mean, you have to pay for your education, and when I went to school, it was $2,000. Well, again, that was 40 some years ago. When you were in school, I think, was it like $10,000 then?
Yes.
So, and that was 20 years after, or 30 years after me, because you've been
2008,
licensed. Yeah. So, I mean, what is the expectation to think that beauty school should be inexpensive? And that also, for me, goes hand in hand with what people who sometimes sit in your chair think the price should be. They're like, oh my God, I used to pay $8 for a haircut. Yeah, and I used to do $8 haircuts in the 80s. I'm not doing $8 haircuts in the 2024s. It just isn't possible, because the one part I think that people forget is stylists have to pay their bills as well. And we pay our bills by delivering hair services to clients. So sometimes if you've just come out of beauty school and your tuition that you have to pay back, and let me back up. We have financial aid just like most colleges and career schools. If you are interested in going to beauty school and you can qualify for financial aid, then there you have it, like any other education or college. You can get financial aid to go to beauty school. So, but I'm not going to jump ahead on the pricing, but I just, what did you think about that part when she was talking?
So for me, the education portion was coming from a place of her being uneducated on the industry and uneducated on what it takes to be a cosmetologist. It's not just a title that's given to anyone. You have to take a test. You have to pass that test. It's just like being a lawyer, where they go take a bar exam. A cosmetologist had to take a state regulated exam so they could get licensed. So when you're online and you don't know if the person has a license, that's going to start you off from a bad place, because if you didn't ask questions to get that information, or they don't post online licensed cosmetologists, search for that hashtag when you're looking for these stylists in your area. Don't just try to go and say, oh, okay, I found them, somebody else had a cute picture. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, but once you get in person, it may be a different scenario. So I think that when she was talking about the cost of beauty school, she was underestimating the cost of education in America, period. So if we're going to talk about the cost of education, then that means we got to get political. We got to start talking about college costs, period, and why, degrees are so expensive here. So everything is up. Inflation is up. I think we all would benefit from just accepting it. It's not necessarily the best thing. Yes, we can work towards changing things in our government and systems, but that's a big undertaking and it's a long process. So acceptance in this moment would be the best thing. And what she wasn't doing was accepting the fact that the school needs to make money, the teachers need to be paid, the administrators need to be paid, the lights need to be paid. So even when she got into, we'll jump ahead to pricing later, but even when she got into like more about the pricing of what a stylist charges, she fails to incorporate the rent and the cost of products and everything else. She took a couple little items and said, well, a braider doesn't have to pay for this or, that because they're not using water to shampoo your hair. They're not using a blow dryer to blow dry your hair. We still need electricity in the facility unless I'm braiding your hair, with a fire. I don't know, how we would see to do the job.
Right.
So I just think that sometimes people want to say something that's trendy, provocative online to get the viewers, to get the clicks, and not really give you the full story. So I think the school is important because it gives you that foundation of what you need to grow, to build on. When you go to driving school, that teaches you a foundation of driving, but you're not going to encounter every situation that you would ever drive in during driving school. So if somebody cuts you off and you got to slam on brakes and adjust, you have to figure that out on the fly. And cosmetology is like that in a sense. There are some things that you learn that are foundational, and then there's things that you're going to have to learn over time. So I feel like she kind of discredited or discounted the fact that we have to go through so many things to learn about the basics and then build from that foundation. So I want to get into the pricing topic.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. I like her talking about the hourly rate.
Yes. So she, this particular video that we watched, she posted a screenshot of the price of a service for braiding. It was 5 hours, 50 minutes for $650. If you do the math on that I just rounded up to 6 hours to be even, because maybe she might be running 5 minutes late. Maybe you're running 5 minutes late, whatever. We just want to add that 10 minutes and make it a full 6 hours. So that's roughly $108 per hour. Now that may sound outrageous to you, but number one, what level are you on in your career? You have to understand that there's levels to how people get paid. When a doctor first gets out of school, they're not getting the top of the food chain, but after 10, 20 years, the same thing with educators in colleges, they get tenured. They've been there longer, they get paid more. So if I'm a braider and I've been braiding for 10, 15 years, especially braiders that started when they were in their childhood, you've been braiding for years and years and years, you're going to do a 6-hour job. So mind you, most of the consumers only work 8 hours in a full day. Tell me how much you made for your whole day. So she's working a full day. Why would she only want to come out with $120 at the end of a 6-hour shift? That's not fair to her. That's not fair to her family. That doesn't benefit anybody. And it doesn't benefit the client, because you want your stylist to be happy, don't you? You want them to be able to live life comfortably and not struggle to survive. Right. So you would think that you need to think about the other things that factor into that $650. It's not just $650 in her pocket. She has to pay for the suite rent if she's renting a suite. If she's braiding in her house, she has to pay for the rent for her house. If she's, buying combs and brushes, she has to purchase those items. And if you're dealing with a stylist that only has one brush, only has one comb, I'm not talking about those people. Those people shouldn't be paid $650 because they probably don't, warrant that. Yeah, exactly. They're doing things that shouldn't warrant it. But I guarantee you, not all stylists that are charging $650 are perfect and are bomb, but I'm saying that the person that has that $650, she has earned that, or she feels she's worth that. And guess what? The price is the price, sweetheart. You can go somewhere else. So there are options, but if you go somewhere else and it's messed up, it doesn't come out right, that is then something that's your responsibility because you chose to take the low road instead of the high road, So
you get what you pay for.
Yes, basically. And that's in everything. And I feel like the education price point is great in cosmetology because it's cheaper than college. Why are we acting like you go to college and don't spend $120,000 to come out and can't even get an entry-level job? So at least with the cosmetology license, you can come out and get a basic job in a salon. It may not pay as much as you want, but that's what happens. You start somewhere, you slowly build up your clientele, people build up their trust in you, you get better, you get faster, and then you end up with more clientele and the right to charge more. And then she said in the video specifically what just made me want to pause it and not even finish, is that it was unethical for a stylist to charge based on their lifestyle. That's what yes, and it's like, that's not an ethics issue.
Yeah.
McDonald's is not charging the same as Fogo de Chao for a reason, because it's not the same kind of clientele. So if you want the McDonald's service and the price, go to the McDonald's stylist. Yes. Don't try to come to, Ruth Chris and say, oh, I want to get my my steak. It's not right. No, it's going to be right at Ruth Chris because they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years and years, So I just think that people need to put some respect on stylist's name. When you're a stylist and you have been in the industry for so long, you should warrant something. No one told Picasso how much he was going to charge for a painting.
She talked about art.
Yes. So when you're talking about art, no one's going to say, oh, this is a Mona Lisa. I only can afford to pay $300 for it. You don't want the Mona Lisa then, because that's not what it's worth, you know? So I just think that you can get a replica of that. Is it going to be the same? Is it going to last as long? Is it going to, stand the test of time? Probably not, because that painting is, hundreds of years old and it's still in good condition. But if you buy a painting at, Home Goods, it may not be around in another 20, 30 years. A little, moisture and stuff in the air, it's going to start breaking down. And the same thing is like with your hair.
Yellow from the sun shining on it too much.
Exactly. So I just think that it's unfortunate that people have these misconceptions about the industry. But I think that as stylists, we need to take our power back and understanding that it's up to us to create that level of respect. If you are a licensed cosmetologist and you are not shampooing, conditioning, and treating your client's hair, you're missing an opportunity. Number one, you could be charging extra for treatments. You could be charging a little more for that shampoo process. Why not get all of the money? And then I think in the video she touched on how one stylist wanted the client to come flat iron for a ponytail.
Welcome to the Hair Kitchen. Let G. Marie take care of your hair. Visit us on Style Seat for appointments or call 443-490-5777 and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. There's something for everyone in the Hair Kitchen.
I don't think that that's appropriate necessarily, but what I think is that if you're having a problem with the clients, how they're coming prepared, then you should do the preparations yourself.
Correct.
So that's just kind of like my take on like most of the video. It was just like, okay.
And then when to just back up, I did have opportunity to meet a stylist who works in her home, and I'm stylist, licensed cosmetologist, they interchange that word, so I'm just going to call her a stylist, but mostly what all I saw her doing was lace fronts, weaves, braid downs, tracks, things like that. She wasn't really doing any real hair. So I asked her, I said, do you shampoo? And she said, no, you have to come already shampooed. And I said, why is that? Because I've been hearing this. And she said, because I don't have anywhere to shampoo you in my house. Well, then you shouldn't be going there. I was like, okay. Excuse me, because two things, before the shampoo, what are we supposed to do? A scalp analysis. So the hair and scalp analysis looks at what's going on with the scalp. Is there anything like lice or anything like that that would prevent you from receiving a service in the salon? Because if the client has something that's contagious, you don't want to have to fumigate your salon because you took them to the bowl and now it's going to spread to everybody else that comes in. That's number one. And you do that at the chair, and you do it with a brush. You brush exfoliate. You're not trying, like I see all that lifting going on. And what did the dermatologist, I saw another post and he was saying you really shouldn't lift it off like that. When you see people take that lice comb and lift off psoriasis and things like that, I just would never, because I would be afraid of irritating the scalp, causing some kind of infection and later discomfort for the client. But the first part of a good service is a scalp analysis. You're analyzing the porosity, the elasticity, if you're doing chemicals, density, texture, and everything, so you can tell the client what you see and what will work best for her. Then you move into the shampoo. As you said, you can do the treatment. If you see the client's hair is breaking, it's damaged, you might want to do a protein treatment. If you see it's dry and brittle, you might want to do a moisture treatment. And some people are overusing the Olaplex. I'm gonna digress from that. But my client came in and said, oh, you're not doing Olaplex? I said, you didn't have a chemical treatment. So no, I'm not doing an Olaplex today. Not the Olaplex that you use when you're doing the chemical treatment. And even the Olaplex shampoo and conditioners, I use the whole line, but I go back to my other treatments and my other shampoos and products, because Olaplex for me, I like and prefer when I'm doing a chemical service. And then the client can purchase the home retail, home maintenance to continue, but still alternating it with their regular shampoo and conditioner. But yeah, the people who aren't shampooing, I just don't even, I personally wouldn't even come to you.
Yeah, and I think that's acceptable, So she had some good points in the video. That was one of the good points, was just that it's it's more professional to do the shampoo service. It sets you apart from the unlicensed cosmetologist, from the stylists that don't have the training. It sets you apart from others. And why wouldn't you want your level of customer service to be higher than your competitors? That's going to bring you more business.
what did you think about the portion where she talked about beauty schools need to offer natural hair curriculum? And just for the record, Milady has been offering a natural hair curriculum for a long time. I mean, it wasn't there when I went to school, but when I had our school, that she had the natural curriculum, and that's like 2005, 2006 on up. It was a separate book because it wasn't added in to the regular book. It may be added now. I didn't check that.
Yeah, I think that they have expanded the natural hair and braiding chapter in Milady standard, and it really depends on you as a individual doing your research on the school prior to attending.
Yes.
Unfortunately, if you live in a predominantly white area or an area that doesn't have a lot of naturally textured hair clients, you're going to have a harder time getting that education because there's just no precedence for it. There's no one that you can practice on in that area. There's no clientele that you can work on. So your best bet would be to purchase a mannequin online, buy some braiding hair, or buy whatever, styles you want to try on naturally textured hair. But they sell mannequins with a variety of hair textures online. If you're a licensed stylist that wants to practice on textured hair and you don't have a clientele of natural hair clients already, purchase that mannequin and get to work, because you don't let what you... When I went to college, I have a degree in audio engineering. I didn't learn everything about audio engineering in my 1-degree program. It was accelerated. It was only 1 year. So cosmetology programs are slightly accelerated in the United States. They want you to be able to get into the workforce because there's a high demand for beauty services in all generations. From babies on to elderly, we need beauty services. We need skincare, we need nail care, we need those things. So I think that it's important for us to remember that when we are trying to talk about getting an education versus not getting an education, that the education isn't what builds you. It's you as an individual that has to build yourself up. The education is just the training, and then it's up to you to continue on and get more knowledge and expand upon what they gave you as that foundation.
I totally agree. That's why it's called practice, because you're going to be practicing once you get your license for however long you're in the business. I also wanted to clear up that there was a woman who was before Madam C.J. Walker, and I talk about that in another video, but just to share it here, it was Annie Porro, who actually came out and had a huge operation way before Madam C.J. Walker. And I believe in her book, if you've read the book, because she mentioned this in her video, that Madam C.J. Walker started her products in 1905, and it was actually 1906. And she was working for Annie Porro before she started her own line. And that's not anything different than someone working for Microsoft and then going and starting Apple. Same kind of concept. You work over here and then you start your own business and practice. So just wanted to say, if you read her book, On My Own, she talks about when she started in there. In the book, they reference her great-great-granddaughter, Alelia Bundle. So it's pretty accurate, good information. So as much as we can get of our history. So she talked about, when she talked about natural hair, when I think about natural hair, and she said, because I remember my first client, who I still do now, and she was actually in a commercial for me on Jones Communication a very long time ago. And she came in, she always wore her hair really nice, blow dried, relaxed, curled. And she wanted me to do 2-strand twists. And this was in gosh, you guys were little. This was like 19. And I said, 2-strand twists, not a braid. She said she was a model and she had been somewhere and she saw this style. She said, yeah, 2-strand twist. And then after you do the twist, she wanted me to take it out. It was a twist out. We're talking maybe 96, my first twist out. And again, the one point she made were a lot of stylists who came through beauty school, that's not what we learned. And that wasn't the demand. The demand was, of course, when my grandmother was getting her hair done, it was a press and curl. And then my mother, it was the relaxer. And the relaxer was holding strong and true when I came through. So for me, the natural hair movement is it's almost like maybe naturopathic medicine. You have a standard over here, not even naturopathic, home remedies. That's what I compared it to say, everybody has, oh, my grandmother used to do this for a headache, and this one used to do that, and that didn't work for her, and this and this. Natural hair was like that to me when it first came out, almost like I said, like the Wild West. It was anything goes, and people are still trying to figure out what their mix is going to be and what products are going to work really well on their hair. And everybody doesn't get the same results from the products that are stated and being made for natural hair. You'll be like, oh, I bought that, it didn't work, or I used this, it worked, and then you run out and try to get it and it doesn't work for you either, or it does work for you. So yeah, I just kind of see it as more of a home remedy. There's no real rule or guideline on how natural hair has to be done. You have to kind of go through the weeds and figure out what works for you and what works for your client. So I think the natural hair thing has a place, but it doesn't have a firm, has to be cut and dry, done like this. Okay, so Taylor, what's your take on the natural hair movement? How have you been impacted, or just what would you like to share with us?
I think that she did make a slightly valid point with the 2008 recession being kind of like a springboard into the natural hair movement, because a lot of people were strapped for cash, and getting relaxers or bi-weekly visits to the salon were harder to come by during that time frame. So people did start to begin to research online and figure out what they could use in their hair or how they could style their hair themselves at home. So I do think that she was accurate in that regard. But what I think that a lot of people are missing is that even though social media and technology had the ability to launch the natural hair movement, it's kind of up to the stylist to help the clients figure out what works for them. You don't have to do this alone. You know, a lot of people are solely relying on YouTube videos, Instagram posts, or, you know, someone else doing their own hair to show them how to deal with their hair. And yes, if you see someone with a similar texture and they get a great result from a product, it's probably going to work for you. But if there's not a texture similarity, then you're going to have a harder time getting that same exact result. Or you have to kind of release this vision in your mind of what your natural hair should look like. Natural hair is going to look like what it looks like. You can't make it look like something else that it's not, unless you are going to treat it with a different chemical, color it with a chemical, because color is a chemical. You know, so once you change the state of the natural hair, A, it's no longer natural, you know, and then B, it's going to give you that result that you're looking for. So some people, maybe they just want to see a spirally curl closer to my texture, but they have a slightly tighter texture. Go to a stylist. Maybe you might want a permanent wave. Maybe that's an option for you, because then you get manageability, you get curl pattern, you get all of the things that you do want, but you don't have to deal with the product applications and things that come with trying to maintain your own natural hair on a regular basis.
It's the Hair Kitchen, baby, and you know what it means. G. Marie gon' come around. She gon' really lay it down. She gon' tell y'all all about all the things she knows about.